Yes, you are listening to the Ready, Set, Retire radio podcast with Steve Anzuoni. My name is Jessica Forkel. Get more details on the website at fairwayfinancial.net.
Lots of folks are worried about the next stock market crash, but studies show that you may actually see a lot of them over a 25-year retirement. They say a 10% correction happens about once a year, so you may see 20 of those. A 20% bear market happens about once every 4 years, so you may get about 6 of those. And then declines of 30 to 50%, while they're rare, we've actually already seen 2 of those back in 2000 and 2008. So, Steve, do you find that people are okay with guarding against the rare huge drop, and maybe they can handle those smaller ones, or is it just kind of any loss is no good at all?
Well, everyone's different, and I don't think anybody likes a loss, but here's what I've found is while people are working, it doesn't seem to affect them as much because they have income, they have their paycheck, and they just kind of go along and they keep contributing every month, whether the market's up or down. In the industry, we have a term for that. It's called dollar cost averaging. And so that's a great way to do it long term. But here's the trick is when retirement's on your radar, when it's like within the next 3 to 5 years or even 1 year away. I just had someone come in from the show. He was 1 year away. And boy, did he get, I call it the wrap your hands around the pile syndrome. And when you start to get so close, now you're watching your money almost every day, which is probably not a good thing. But recently, with all this going on in Iran, the war and the oil prices, obviously it's had a very large effect on the market. And we saw some 10, 15% dips the last month after, ironically, reaching an all-time high at the end of January. So we're still up there in terms of where we're at from the past, but it's been a very, very rocky road. So for those of you who are near retirement, I get it. What you want to do is you want to sit down with somebody and have a conversation about what you're trying to accomplish. Because remember, it's just a pile of money you have right now. There's no real purpose other than everyone saying to me, well, I want to retire and this is my money. But that's not really a plan, Jess. It's just a hope. You know, here's my pile. I hope it doesn't run out. That is not a solid game plan. And what we do here is we put together blueprints. You want to know when you retire, will I have enough money or am I going to run out of money, which is scary. You don't want that to happen. And without a game plan, people tend to they just get really super nervous, conservative. They wrap their hands around that pile. They don't want to let it go. And you need to assign a purpose to the money.
So, Steve, you talk about assigning a purpose to our money because let's face it, for the past 30, 40 plus years, that's what we've been doing. We just save. It just all goes in that same pile. Now to find a purpose for that money, I think that's where your buckets come in, right?
Yeah, and that's why I wrote the book. And by the way, I pulled the book out and I showed it to this gentleman. I said, look, you see what we're doing here? And I explained how the buckets work. And of course, there's the income bucket, which is what everybody needs in retirement. You need income. You need to replace your check. So that's the most important one. And pensions used to do a good job of that, but most of us don't have them anymore. Social Security, not enough, especially in our state, just not even close. And annuities are also a solid foundation for that. So we have a discussion a little bit about how they work and how they can fit into your overall plan. And then the next bucket is inflation. And we want to be able to fight inflation. And we want to do that what is called risk versus reward bucket, which is generally the 401k and the IRAs that people have. And then we talk about having emergency money just in case something happens. And then we talk about your favorite bucket, Jess, which is
the fun bucket.
The fun bucket. And people look at me, they go, what the heck's a fun bucket? I go, it's exactly what it sounds like. It's money that I want you to spend. Now, I know that's a little scary right now because your plan's not ready for this bucket. You're not set up right. But when we set you up right and we provide you the cash flow and the income you're going to need and we make sure it's going to be there for you forever, now you won't mind spending some money down and doing things you want to do, traveling, seeing the grandkids, doing, whatever is in your plan. So that's the purpose plan. That's the blueprint. It's a flexible plan. People love it. They love to see their buckets, if you will, on page, where they are now, where they need to go, how to get there. And then I show them it. Here's how you get there. And then I show them the cash flow. They love it. So that's what we can offer. And I believe, Jess, you had mentioned something about giving that book out to people who call in. I'd love to do that because it's a great guide for somebody. And I give great examples of couples and singles who've retired and what we've done. And so it's very, very helpful guide. And obviously coming in and seeing me and getting your personalized plan.
Absolutely. Yeah, you talked about this retirement blueprint. We'll do that complimentary for our listeners today. And also when you call and you sit down with Steve for this retirement blueprint, it's going to be customized, by the way, built specifically for you and finding purpose and assigning purpose to that big pile of money that you've saved for retirement. You'll also get a copy of Steve's book. It's called Tee Up Your Retirement. Really simple, easy read, by the way. If you love the way that we do the show, you're going to love the book even more. And again, if you'd like to sit down for this retirement blueprint, call right now. 508-552-3230. That's 508-552-3230. Don't forget about that website, guys, fairwayfinancial.net. You know, Steve, we had talked about how annuities can serve up a continuous stream of guaranteed income month after month. But at the end of the year, what are those tax implications from annuities? Well, here's Morningstar's Christine Benz.
It gets a little bit complicated depending on the account that you use to fund the annuity. But generally speaking, you'll obtain some tax deferral as long as the funds are inside the annuity. And then you'll owe taxes on any money that hasn't been taxed yet. So if you put pre-tax dollars into an annuity and it makes investment gains, well, all of your withdrawals will be taxable, and they'll be taxable at your ordinary income tax rate. If you've put in some money that has already been taxed, there's what's called an exclusion ratio, meaning that you won't be taxed on those funds again.
All right, so let's break this down a little bit. You know, when you're funding annuities for clients, how do you decide which money to go for? Is it the pre-tax, like traditional IRAs? Is it the already taxed, like Roths? And at the end of the day, how big of a difference does this make as far as the decision goes here?
Well, the decision is mainly on, do people want safety of principal in many cases? Do they want a lifetime guaranteed paycheck? Because there are different types of annuities, and certainly we don't have the time. We'd need about 5 shows to get into all the different types of annuities. We don't want to do that. We want you to come in, find out about your specific situation, and then recommend products that are specific to what you need. But generally speaking, I find that IRAs and 401ks are designed by default for long-term income checks. It's just that they can't guarantee those checks. And that's kind of the problem with those. And that's where annuities come in, where you could take a piece of that pile and create a lifetime paycheck, you know. And people love to hear that. People love to say, all right, if I've got $750,000, if I give you $300,000, you're going to provide me with, say, $20,000 a year guaranteed forever. And the answer is, yeah, that's how some of the annuities work. And as Christine pointed out, if that's all pre-tax money, then it's the same rule as if it was left in an IRA or a 401k. I mean, all of that is subject to ordinary income, and that's just the IRS rules. But if it's after-tax money, then the rules are a little bit different. So, but the idea is that annuities can provide a safer haven, if you will, depending on the type of annuity, than where you are now. So if you're having, like I like to use the word agita because I'm Italian, but if the last couple of months have kept you awake at night, and I know many of you have because I've gotten a lot of phone calls, then you may want to consider looking at principal protected annuities that will grow based on either a fixed rate or just using the S&P 500 as an example, gains only. So you eliminate all the negatives that you've been seeing on TV. So some people like to go that route and think of it as an escalator. So you're going to go up to the next floor, and then you're going to wait and see what happens. If the market goes up, you'll go up to the next floor. If the market goes down, you'll stay on that floor. In other words, you won't lose a nickel. And then if the market goes back up again, you'll go up again. So think of it as an escalator and not a elevator, which can slam, like you said, some big hurts. And you don't want to get hurt when you're near retirement. You lose 40% like you did in 2008, and that might delay your retirement a couple of years, Jess.
Yeah, I would think
seriously,
so.
It could be that bad. So you want to get your ducks in a row, and you want to plan. I mean, that's the difference between a pile and a plan. A plan tells you what you need to do, where you need to go, and how it works. A pile, it's a pile. They can go up and go down and go anywhere. That's the real difference. So that's where annuities come into play. They level out the playing field, if you will, because now you can project, along with Social Security, what your, bottom line income will be. And then you can go from there and mix and match with other pieces that you have. So that's kind of how it works.
Yeah, when you think of a pile versus a plan, guys, I go right to like trying to put some, furniture together. If I give you just a bunch of screws and nails and I give you one tool and I say, make it happen, you're going to go, what do you mean? But if I give you, all the tools and all the exact screws and I give you the instruction manual, which, Steve, I know some men have problems with the instruction manual, you're going to be able to build it just right. So that's the difference between having a pile and having a plan. So if guaranteed income is something that you've been going, man, wouldn't that be great if I just had, almost like a paycheck in retirement, something that I knew was coming in each and every single month? Well, let's do this income review. Let's see if guaranteed income can be a part of your financial plan, that retirement plan. We'll do this income review complimentary. That's 508-552-3230. 508-552-3230. That website, fairwayfinancial.net. This was interesting. The Oscars, they come and go each and every single year. I watch them, and, I always thought, hey, you get the Oscar, they hand it to you on stage, that's what you get engraved, and that's what you take home. But turns out, winners don't technically own their Oscar. I mean, they can keep it, but if they ever want to sell it, they must offer it back to the Academy for $1. Wow. I mean, imagine that. And that got me thinking here, how many people heading into retirement think they own their money without realizing that there could be rules attached to it that they don't fully understand here.
Man, that is such a great spin on the Academy Awards. I knew only you could do that, Jess. But if you think about it, do you really own your IRA and 401k?
Well, I thought I did.
Or do you have a silent partner?
Yeah.
Okay? The IRS is your partner. It's not your spouse, because you could change the beneficiaries anytime you want. The IRS is the co-owner of your retirement plan, okay? And it's that simple. And when you hit that magic age of 73, the co-owner demands that you make withdrawals. Okay, they don't ask, they demand it. Now, most people at that point would probably want to start taking income, don't get me wrong, but they have simple rules, and they say, look, this is what you got to take, this is how it works. Like, again, I keep referring to this gentleman who just came in recently because he's just hot on my mind. But he's like, well, my income's pretty good. He was very fortunate. He has a pension and Social Security. He has a very nice size IRA. He did a good job saving. Mm-hmm. And I looked at him, I said, you realize in 2 years, because he's 71, I go, you're going to be forced to have an income of over $200,000 a year. And he's shaking his head.
To have an income, by the way.
Yeah. He goes, really? He goes, I never, ever imagined that could happen. I go, well, congratulations, because that's a really good problem to have.
No kidding.
He's not going to have a choice, Jess, all right, based on the size of his IRA and his pension and his Social Security. But, again, think of the freedom that you lose there, right, because that bucket is not really totally controlled by you, but you can make changes, and you can control the cash flow and the income out of it by putting it in certain vehicles. Like, for example, a lifetime annuity will control the check and guarantee a certain exact amount forever, even if the money you put in runs out. Now, let me say that again, because people go, what? Because if you have a 401k and you're getting too aggressive on the withdrawals and you run out of money, bye-bye. good night. It's over. Mm-hmm. But with an annuity, because it's a guaranteed contract, you give X number of dollars and you will receive in writing X number of dollars for life for you and your spouse if you're married. And even if the original pile runs out, that check will be there forever. So that's what people are blown away by. So you really need to investigate and look into this because it can really help your mindset. It can really help even things out, so you can predict the future a little bit better. And by the way, speaking of retirement, Social Security has its own rule book.
Of course it does. They don't make it easy to retire, let's be honest.
By the way, it has its own tax base, too.
Of course it does.
It's called the provisional income tax. And if you make too much, and get what the IRS considers too much. You ready?
I don't know, $20,000, $30,000 a year, probably.
Yeah, if you're a couple making like $44,000 or $45,000,
wow,
couple, right? 85% of the Social Security income is considered taxable as ordinary income. That's it, and they capped it. They didn't put an inflation rider on that number. That number's been the same for like 25, 30 years, Jess, and they did it on purpose. So, and the other thing is, it's a slippery slope. It's like playing dominoes. If you make one move with the retirement money and it's not the right move, it can trigger a tax landslide on other pieces of the puzzle that you have. So you need to make sure the pieces fit together, the pieces work together. Mm-hmm. You're taking Social Security at the right time. You're not having it cause taxation on another piece of the pile. You really need a blueprint, and that's what we do, Jess. We help you with that, right? So let's put that plan together for you, that blueprint, and let me help you get on that right path and have a more successful way of looking at cash flow and income when you retire.
Get more details on the website fairwayfinancial.net. That's fairwayfinancial.net.
Steve Anzuoni is a licensed insurance provider by the Division of Insurance and is not registered as an investment advisor. Insurance and annuities offered through Steve Anzuoni, Massachusetts Insurance License 3851053. Annuity guarantees rely on the financial strength and claims-paying ability of the issuing insurance company. Read your contract for restrictions, limitations, or penalties. Steve Anzuoni is not licensed in all 50 states. To find out if Steve Anzuoni is licensed in your state, please call 508-398-3337.